Now quite often we want to get rid of the cube when we start up Blender, but this time we're going to keep it. And that cube will eventually become our spaceship model. So the first thing we're going to do is scale the cube so that it's longer and thinner. And then we're going to use the broader and wider, and then we're going to use the mirror modifier. Now before we can do that we have to cut the cube in half. So I'm going to go into edit mode, and I'm going to use the loop cut and slide to literally cut the object in half. And then I'm going to delete the 4 vertices from the half that we don't want. Now it is important in this case which direction that you take this from. If you notice, the long direction is aligned with the green line, and I'd suggest that you keep that alignment. And now we're going to go over into the modifiers pane, and we're going to add a mirror modifier. Now if you haven't used this before, I suggest you have a bit of a play with it. Basically now everything I do on one side of the spaceship gets done on the other, and you want to select merge and clipping. Okay, now you can mirror the thing around any axes you like. You can mirror it around X, you can mirror it around Y and Z, or indeed any combination, but at the moment we just want X. Oh, I forgot to say you can also mirror it around an object. Now the other thing we want to adjust is the merge limit. To make it easier, we're going to put it 0.01, and that's the limit at which vertices that are near the centre line join together and become one. Okay, so as you can see we've now got two halves. Now we need to make sure we're always working on the half that is nearest to us. And I'm going into edit mode. I'm going to do a few more loops, loop cut and slides, because that will allow us to manipulate the edges and the vertices so that we get the sort of shape that we want. And what I'm going for is something that looks like there was a UAV prototype I saw once, I think it was McDonnell Douglas, called the Manta, and it was kind of like a manta ray, and it was a really nice shape, so I decided I'm going to try and go for that very streamlined sort of shape. Right, so it looks about right for the tail. So now by hitting Control and Tab, I've changed to Edge Select. I'm going to pull the edges around so that I've got roughly sort of like a coffin shape, as you can see. And I'm going to add some longitudinal loop cuts, and that will give me the bulge in the middle of the Manta's body. If I select those three edges that I've just created, plus also the outer three edges, and move them down, you can see what happens. So I've kind of thinned out the edges of the body. And that was a bit too much, I think, because I'm going to make the body taper more towards the wings, and the wings are going to be on the outside. So there we go. So I've actually moved things twice, and I reselected just the outer edges, And then I'm going to do the same sort of thing on the bottom. And now you can see how much work the mirror modifier is actually saving us. Because the two halves of this want to be identical, then why on earth should we do two lots of drawing and moving and go through the hassle of trying to get them all the same, when we can just use the mirror modifier and kind of draw both sides at once. So the next thing is to bring the wings out, and I'm going to change, hit Control and Tab and Faces on the menu, and I've just realised that I'm looking on the wrong side of it, because anything I can edit is actually on the wrong other side of it, and there we go. It's very easy to get lost. Right. And you could try and scale it like that, but that wouldn't give me the effect I want. So what I want to do is extrude. So I hit E on the keypad and just pull those wings out. And now I'm going to go back to Edge Select. So Control Tab and select Edges. And I'm going to thin the wings down towards the end. Maybe not quite that much. And I'm going to grab hold of that front edge and sweep it back. And it's here you can start to play with the shape of the wing and say, well, is that what I want, or do I want it to come out or in, or whatever the heck. And really I'm just kind of sketching at the moment. Because what I'm going to do in a minute, I'm going to extrude those wingtips. But you can make the wings any shape you like. So you can see, moving the edges around, you can create any number of different wing configurations. But I'm sort of remembering what the manta looks like, and that's roughly what it was. So next thing to, oh, this is what happens if you hit Alt and Tab instead. Right, so I want Control, Tab, and I'm going to select Faces, not Edges, Faces, that's it. And I want the face that forms the wingtip, and E for Extrude. That's about right. And I'm going to take them up, because the manta's got kind of an up-flipped wing, rather like that. Okay. Now I'm going to go into edges, and I'm going to have another little play. And sweep the front back further. That's very nearly the sort of shape I'm looking for. In fact, in a minute what I'm going to do is apply a subsurface modifier which will round everything off. Yeah. So now we'll go to work on the fuselage, and we'll make that a nice interesting shape. Don't know what's going to look good there. We'll go and select faces, and we'll make that front a little bit longer in front of the wings, and maybe do something unusual with it. Oops. sorry, meant to extrude it. E for extrude. Yeah, I think if I can sort of make a sort of knobbly shape out of the front, so scale those up a bit and bring it forward, then extrude again and scale them down, squash them in. And that's quite an interesting and unusual shape for the front of the ship. And extrude that bit out and give it a bit of a point, and I think that will do. Of course, the ship you can make any shape you like, and if you want to, you can copy one that you particularly like out of Star Wars or Buck Rogers or whatever. This one's entirely out of my own head, and it's sort of manta-ish, but it's not completely like one. So that, I think the front of the fuselage is good enough, and we'll do something with the back, shall we? What I think I'm going to do with the back here, I'm going to put a couple of rocket nozzly looking things. That being traditional on spaceships, you don't have to. So now you'll notice that where I'm in edit mode and I added that cone, those cones are already part of this object, and the mirror modifier applies. So this will give me two kind of fused together cones, if you like, which, considering I'm going for unusual, is reasonably what I want. And now what I'll do is I'll twist them round and position them. And the points of the cones will be inside our spaceship, but they won't be registered, won't be rendered, so who cares. Right, move those up a bit. Yeah, that looks like the sort of thing that I was thinking about. And yeah, it wants to be a bit flatter, I think, at the back. Yeah, the rest of it looks okay. So, bearing in mind, you see, all the time I'm thinking, well, I'm going to subsurface this in a minute, and that's going to round everything off. So I don't mind it looking angular, not anglia. I just want to streamline this back a bit more. With the subsurface in a mauve is going to give us quite a mysterious shape. It's one we can change, we can put angles on it if we like, but yeah, I quite like that. So what I'm going to do is add on that subdivision surface now. I'm just going to leave it as 2, and I'm going to turn the view up to 2 so we can actually see it. There, and that's what it'll look like rendered. As you can see, everything's got some nice curves on it, and it's all terribly streamlined, and I like that look. That's like a very modern spaceship look. But if you didn't like it, all you've got to do is insert another loop cut, say for example in the wing if you wanted it squarer, and pull it about until you got something that you liked. So I've applied the mirror, so everything now, both sides, is the same. And just to show you what that loop cut and slide would have done, here we go. If I wanted bits of it squarer, I can use the loop cut and slide to make it squarer. However, I don't want to do that in this case, so delete that. Right, and then the next thing is to put it in a scene. So I quite like that. So I'm actually going to go into object mode and then scale it. I'm going to sort the materials out first, I think. What I'm going to do, I'm going to make it sort of a coppery, rusty colour. Once again, unusual for spacecraft. And I'm going to add a texture to it. And the texture I'm going to use is one I've used before that I made specifically for spaceships. Or rather, that was made specifically for spaceships. I didn't make it, but if you want to make the same sort of texture, it's dead easy. All you do, as you'll see in a minute, is get out your favourite paint program, lots of rectangles, all different greys, some single pixel black lines around them, so it's like plates on a spaceship, and that's what the texture looks like. No, I want plain, I think. Right, so we're going to make it change two things: the colour, but we don't want it to make it overwrite the colour completely so that it's grey. So maybe 0.3, 0.4, something like that on the colour, and the geometry 0.1, 0.2, so that we can see some lumps and bumps. And I'll do a quick test render, and you'll see how that comes out. Immediately, what I want to do is I want to up the amount the colour affects it, and up the geometry, because I want things to be rather more visible than that. Also, I want to darken the specular colour of the material because it's too white at the moment, and the texture itself is too big, so I'm going to repeat it twice in the X and Y direction under image mapping. Yeah, that's a lot better. Looks like it's got lots and lots of details in, but in actual fact you haven't done much at all. And that's with the normal turned up to 0.623. Might be a bit too high, but it all depends how much detail you want to be able to see, really. Colour up a bit, and that's quite nice. I quite like that. So I'm going to make the diffuse colour rather stronger. More saturated orange. Yeah, I think the specularity is about right. That looks quite good actually. It shows up all the detail, and metal does normally reflect a bit. Talking of which, maybe I ought to add a bit of mirror in there. Not a lot, maybe 0.2ish or 0.15, 0.2, and make it change the colour of what it mirrors to be nearer itself. And immediately we've got a much richer kind of metallic looking spacecraft. Yeah, I like that. Right, we'll put it in an environment, and what we're going to do is put it in a starscape. Now, what you can do, the starscape renders on top of the sky, so we're going to change the sky so that at the horizon we've got like a deep blue or a black. I can't make my mind up which one to use. So there's two way rounds you can do it. You can have the deep blue near the horizon, which I think is what we'll do. So we'll have that kind of colour, maybe a bit darker at the horizon, and then at the zenith we'll have can't really get a darker blue, so maybe for the zenith we'll just have black. And then we're going to hit blend sky. It's difficult to see on there, but what you've got is a blend from the blue at the bottom to the black at the top. Right, so now we'll turn the stars on. So you can see you've got several different settings. You've got size of the stars, and it shows you the preview at the top. You've got the colours, because you can have all sorts of colours. You can get some quite subtle effects by using numbers under 1. You've got the minimum distance, because you don't want the stars to render over the top of an object. So I've set it for quite a long way. Average distance between stars, you can control the separation. Now I'm going to use this in a minute to make it look as if the camera is moving. The old Star Trek thing with the stars moving outwards and disappearing behind you. Right, I'll show you how to do that in a moment. So the next thing to do is to, I'm in edit mode, not object mode. Go to object mode and scale the spaceship down to a manageable size. Bearing in mind our camera is going to be pretty close. Maybe somewhere around about there. Okay, go to the camera view and you'll see the stars pop on all of a sudden. And now we're going to move the object and rotate it to be where we want it to be at the very start of our little movie. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be up close. I'm going to make it look like the camera is moving with the ship for a short period, and then the ship's going to speed up and break away off to the left someplace. So there we go. Yeah, something like that. So if I insert a keyframe, it's going to be location and rotation. And then I'm going to move it slowly more into the field of view, as if the camera is slowing down and the ship's outpacing it. Somewhere about there. And I've just realised this isn't going to work, because I needed to move the green line on the animation timeline first. Okay, so I'll move that back again. Blender is so full of little features and featurettes and do's and don'ts, it's quite easy to forget something, and I just forgot a very basic thing. So there we go, slap on the wrist. Right, let's do this the way we should have done it. We'll move the timeline along, maybe to, I don't know, yeah, 80 frames will do. 80 frames at 25 frames a second, that's about 3.5 seconds or something like that. So that'll do nicely. Give it a little bit of rotation. Things always look more realistic when they rotate a bit as well as move in a straight line. And we've inserted our keyframe. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up the stars as they would be when we start. So they're now quite close together. I've hit the I key to insert a keyframe with the mouse hovering over the separation there. Now I'll jump to the other keyframe. I'm going to set the stars quite a lot further apart. Hover over separation, hit I again. So now what we've done is we've made the stars animate. So they will actually move outwards and then stop moving outwards. And that will give the illusion that the camera is moving, and it's stopped. Now the next thing to do is to fly our spaceship, which is called Cube. I should have renamed it Spaceship, never mind. Yeah. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change our focal length here in the middle. so that we can actually see a little bit more, like so. Hit I, so we've actually put a keyframe on it and it doesn't wander all over the place. Put a bit more rotation in, maybe not that much. I think that wants to rotate back towards us more in the Z, but never mind. So yeah, so it'll actually disappear off into the distance. Yeah, we'll have that somewhere there, and we'll set another one. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the camera around, so the camera is now going to be centered on our ship. Insert a keyframe for that. And zoom it into the distance. That's odd, it seems to disappear when it hits the stars. I think that's the 15 units that I set it to. I wonder if it'll disappear when it's behind there. Let's have a go. Right, so if we hit animation, we'll be able to see our animation. I'm going to take the length down to about 200. And save it. Must forget to save before you do anything nastily complicated. Okay. And it shoots back behind us. What's going on there? I think Blender doesn't like me taking it through the star field, so I'm going to redo that last keyframe and make it go not quite so far into the distance, I think. Okay, so I'll delete that keyframe, move back a frame or two, and it will pop back into view. There, so, and I'm going to take it there, not quite all the way out of view, and insert a keyframe. With a bit of luck, it'll behave itself this time. And there we go. Zoom into the distance. That's not too bad. So what I'm going to do is render that and see what it looks like. I'll show you what it looks like in a minute. I'm going to try rotating it a bit because I wasn't quite happy with that bit early, but no, that just looks stupid. I'll just put a kink in it. Okay, I'll take that keyframe out. That's one of the cases where sometimes if you play around with things, it will make them actually worse. Before it was acceptable, but perhaps not exactly ideal, like this. But what it was just then was totally bogus. It just suddenly sort of kinked in the middle of nowhere for no reason at all. So, okay. Stop that there, and I'm going to render the animation in a moment. I need to set the lighting up. I just suddenly remembered. Yeah, it's a bit dark, so I'm going to go to our lamp and select that in the list, and I'm going to turn it into a sun, but I know that's going to be too bright, so 0.3, 0.4, re-render, fine. That's about where we want it. We don't want quite everything on the spaceship to be visible, but we want to retain a little bit of an air of mystery and suspense. So we make it reasonably dark, but not so dark you can't see the damn thing. Okay. Right, I rendered that, and this is the animation that we get. And immediately I say to myself there's something missing, and of course what it is no engine. When it suddenly zooms off like that, the rocket engine really should start up, if it's rocket powered obviously. In this case it's got some nozzles at the back. So, okay, back into Blender. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a flame effect onto the rear of our rocket stroke spaceship, and I'm going to animate that so it comes on and it's visible only when our craft suddenly accelerates. So we start off with an icosphere, which is very good for making flames, and we're going to stretch it, and we're going to delete some faces so that what we end up is like a cone shape with a ragged end, which is ideal for a rocket or jet exhaust. If you want to see how to do this more clearly, and also to animate the flame so that it looks like it's flickering as you go away into the distance, then you can see my tutorial on doing exactly that on my YouTube channel. But I'm just going to quickly, oops, wrong end, I'll keep doing that. Right, I'm going to hit A, I'll hit escape first to get rid of the circle select, hit A to remove the selection we've already made, and we're going to select a few vertices like that, escape, X, delete vertices. And as you see, what we've got now is a hollow cone, and I'm going to go into faces, select faces, and vertices, sorry, delete a few more, and now I'm going to delete a few faces to make it a bit more ragged. So Control and Tab and face it, whoops, that's what happens if you hit Alt and Tab instead of Control and Tab. Right, select faces and delete 2 or 3 faces to make it look more ragged. We'll have that one, and we'll have that one. So there we go. And that side's a bit too complete, so we'll have at least one face out of there, I think. Like so. Okay, doesn't look too bad. Now you'll have to bear with me, there's a bit of tiddling around to do. Just positioning this at the back of the craft and getting it appropriately scaled and making it look like it's coming out of the direction of those rocket exhausts. Now if I was doing a very high res model, obviously I'd have 2 of these. This is actually quite a low res model, so I'm not overly worried about it. With the rocket thrusters that close together, they probably merge into one flame anyway, so that's the way I'm going to represent it. Now I think Blender has actually got some tools missing which it needs. What would be lovely is to be able to snap the 3D cursor to the exact rear or the exact front of something. Then you'd just simply be able to snap the cursor onto the rear of the plane and move the flame to the cursor and then just drag it back. as it is. There's a bit of messing around and rotating and other things to do to get this lined up. Of course it would have been a lot easier if we'd put it in the model originally, but I wanted to show you this process really because you're forever importing models from elsewhere, other scenes you've made, other people have made, and altering them to make them better. This is the sort of thing that you'll end up doing quite a lot. Yeah, that's okay. Right, when we got that position to our heart's content, the next thing to do is to join it to the spaceship. And the way we do that is by selecting them both, making sure the spaceship is last, and hit the join button at the top left there. And they're now both the same thing, and of course they're both the same material. So what we want to do is go into edit, select all the vertices we can find of our flame, and this might take a little bit of doing. Do you know, I've just realised something. My centre mouse button, my wheel has broken, so I can't zoom in and out. That's very good. Here I am in the middle of this tutorial and I can't zoom in and out. So I'm just going to have to kind of wave a circle select tool around and hope. If I do it from several different axes, then the chances are I will get all of the vertices, but we'll see. I might miss a couple. If so, they might look a bit weird and alien. It might look like part of the ship's design if I'm very lucky. Oh, I can't believe that. My mouse goes bust. Okay. Something like that. I think I've got them all now, or if I haven't, I don't think I quite have actually, because of that little black speck there, but I can't sit here all day. So right, having all of those selected, then the next thing to do is to go to materials and we will add, I'm going to save it first actually. We will add a new material, okay, and this new material is only going to affect the flame. I'll show you how to do that, because you can have any number of materials on an object, all different parts of it as different materials. You don't have to have different objects for the windows and so on and so forth. Right, so we're going to make this material. I'm going to call it flame just so that I can see it. I've been very naughty in this tutorial. I haven't been renaming things. I should really have renamed the cube as plane, for example, or something. Right, I'm going to have a blue flame, nice highly saturated blue. Specularity I'm going to turn all the way down. Eventually emit is going to be turned up. Now to start with, I'm going to make it completely transparent, and the reason for that is that we don't want it to be visible, not until the ship tries to speed up. So there we are. Now I'm right at the beginning of the animation. I've hit the I key when I'm over emit and over alpha. So I've frozen those at nothing. Now I'm going to go to the point where it starts to speed up, which is, well, just before that point actually, which is there. And this is about the point we're going to turn our engines on. So I'm going to leave emit and alpha at 0 and turn them on. And press the I key with the mouse hovering over them. The reason I'm going to do that is that sets a keyframe to make sure it doesn't animate them coming on all throughout the animation. I want them to come on there at frame 137, so I'll set emit to 3, hit the I key, set alpha to, I don't know, 0.2 or something like that, and hit the I key again. And that's maybe a little bit enthusiastic, because I find emit tends to play games with alpha as well. So there, 1.128, and hit the I key, and that should about do it. Now here's the animation as it comes out, as you can see. Whack. So we go off into the distance, our engine comes on. So